Many thanks for staying with us on the program. Now, someone once said that equality is not taking responsibility of one party so they can do less than the other or mean less than the other. Equality is doing for A what you do for B. But as simple as that phenomenon is, some will argue that it doesn't seem well understood. Now, the Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy-Ohanenye, has asked that Nigerian women be exempted from paying tax. She called on the Nigerian security agencies to stay off Nigerian women as they should not pay tax. She also said that women should be empowered to enable them progress in their day-to-day activities. Now, one might think that this is ludicrous, but then again, speaking of the gender pay gap, according to global statistics, you realize that men on average earn more than women. So this is where the debate comes in. Well, joining us now to have this conversation, first off, I'm joined in the studio by Dabira Oluwa-Adeyinka, human rights activist. Thank you so much, Mrs. Adeyinka, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. We also have Mrs. Mary Koku, policy, development, and gender expert, also a founder of Emerge Women Development Initiative from Abuja. Thank you so much, Mrs. Koku, for joining us. Mary, are you there with us? All right. While we wait for Mary to join us, Dabira, once again, thank you for joining us. Can I call you Dabira, or it has to be Dabira?
Dabira is fine.
Okay. All right. Dabira, you've heard the story. You've seen what the development is. The Minister of Women Affairs is calling that women be exempted from tax so that they can, you know, it can help them in their day-to-day activity. So I think I'm going to start by asking, what exactly are the specific reasons behind the minister calling for Nigerian women to be exempted from paying tax? Because, I mean, this is a new development. It wasn't a clamor before now. So what triggered this response?
In my opinion, I think the economic meltdown is one of the biggest challenge that almost everybody in the society, especially the women, are confronted with, because we are the bedrock of the society, and looking at the challenges we are faced with economically, I think that was what prompted that decision, or that motion. Let me say it's a motion, because I don't think it's already.
Yeah, it hasn't been passed.
Yeah, it's been passed. So, and also the women makes the majority of the society. Say women are about 75% of the, you know, general society, and in every home you will always find a woman, and a woman will definitely, you know, be at the call center of the affairs of a home. And we have in our society today, we have women also working to support their husband, or probably we have more of the women that are probably widows or single parents, you know, in the society. And looking at the rate at which everything is skyrocketed when it comes to pricing and all that. So I think exempting women or relaxing on taxation for women is actually an ideal thing that should be embraced, you know, as we speak in the society.
Okay, here's me playing the devil's advocate here, right? We also have a society where the men are pressured to be providers. I mean, of course, it's a natural thing, but there's so much more pressure now on the men, you know, especially those who have families to cater for. A lot of times when a man is slacking, you know, the kind of thing where they say you can't see a man cry, you have to put yourself together and things like that. So, of course, there's almost as much pressure, if not more, to be honest, on the men. So why exactly should women be exempt, and we're not talking about the same thing for the men?
Okay, so from in my opinion, I think it's not like a complete exemption. I think we should be talking about taxation relaxation for women, apparently. Yeah, we know a lot of women to also own organizations, yeah, and we also have women that are mostly, I think she's mainly referring to the grassroots women, the market women, the pepper sellers, the non-profitable organizations run by women. I think those should be the bone of contention. And yeah, we can't even equalize the fact that oh, men are already carrying the bulk of the responsibility in our society at the moment. But when it comes to embracement, women are not as advantaged when it comes to job, when it comes to the working space as men. So we have most women that are striving to keep the home going. They are the first front of the home where yeah, the man brings, you know, for instance, I was checking some analysis, and I say, when we go to the grocery shops, these guys apply taxation to everything we purchase. When you go to the fast food, they apply taxation to everything you purchase, whether you are male or female. So if we can have a body, a regulatory body that sits to this and ensures that it is a bit relaxed or completely relaxed for women, it will also help, because women are actually the peace center of any society. If you want peace in a nation, you know, let the women, make them have that sense of belonging or acceptance in the society. When it comes to politics, women are underplayed. So we cannot have, then when you want to now come to taxation, you want to equalize men and women on that table of taxation. But when it comes to politics, we notice that women are recently striving to want to be at the first front of the politics, because everybody believes, oh, women are supposed to be at home, taking care of the home and stuff like that. But come to think of it, women are endowed with a lot of abilities to be able to multitask and bring ideas to the table. So now helping women, putting women in this advantage, I mean, giving them this advantage is, okay, let us relax taxation, especially to non-profitable organizations, women at that field, or women in the marketplace. It's going to be a lot of plus. It's going to be a lot of addition to the present economic situation we find ourselves in, even though we know that taxation is very important and is a way to generate revenue for the society to be well developed.
Okay, now still talking about the minister's statement, you will find that she said something in the line of women need to be empowered. When you empower one woman, you empower 20 women.
Yes.
But I think the question is, what specific form of empowerment will we get from relaxing taxation? I know you have explained, but is that really the problem when there are women on the grassroots level, like you said, who do not even, I mean, they can't even feed, you know, 3 times a day, 2 times a day. So a lot of them, the problem is even beyond, you know, the taxation. Yes, taxation is a problem, but some of them even find it hard making enough money to feed themselves and take care of their children. So is that solution enough, or is it at least a good start?
It's a good start for me. It's not like it's enough or not enough. For me, it's a good start. There's a proposition that people looking out now for women like them. There's a proposition that, look, we have to make life better. See, if you want a peaceful country, a peaceful nation, make the women comfortable enough to be able to mind their territory. And when she said something like empower one woman and 20 women are empowered, see, women has this drive, there's this emotion that is attached to women. When a woman gets to the center of a place, she is quickly noticed. Her voice is louder enough for people to be able to aggravate towards her. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yes, yes.
So for me, I think is a good beginning, especially in this administration, putting women first, or putting women, making sure that women are also important in the society. Since our political status is not really giving room for that spread for women. So if we have a voice like the Commissioner for Women Affairs coming up to propose this, is a good proposition. I think it should be well aligned, and then there should be policies that will be properly sequenced towards ensuring that this is effective as quickly as possible, to be able to help people stay mentally aligned, because a lot of stress is going on right now, and we all know what that means.
Yes, sure we do. Okay, putting aside the women, on the grassroots level, the women in the market and women who find it hard to make ends meet now, let's also take a look at the gender pay gap, which is a huge factor in this debate. If you followed my introduction earlier, I did mention that a lot of people would say that they disagree with the fact that women need to be exempted from taxing. But if you look at the gender pay gap, according to global statistics, we see that men earn relatively more than women. So is this also something that the minister did factor in when she made that statement?
I think that was one of the things that she factored in, and that was the most important thing that she factored in. In our own society back here in Africa, women are mostly not allowed to work. Women are mostly stay-at-home moms, and when you have a few women that are allowed to work, they are either supporting, the family. They are either a supportive measure for the breadwinner of that family, and most of the times we have more of single moms out there, and probably even moms that are the bedrock of their homes. So knowing fully well that even in our society, you will find men working more. We have a large number of men that are in the job position than the women. So I think that was one of the things that prompted that motion to say, look, let us relax taxation, or probably exempt taxation for women.
All right. Thank you so much, Dabira. Now, before we continue, I think we have Mary Koku, a policy development and gender expert, with us now. Mary, could you please confirm you can hear us?
I can hear you very well.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We're talking about the minister's statement, her call for women to be exempted from taxing. And we've just been discussing the reasons. And I think my next question was going to be whether or not there are alternatives. So instead of exempting women from taxing, because, in this age and time, we see a lot of clamoring for gender equality. And by gender equality, until now, it didn't include exempting women from tax. In fact, some women will say that they want to do, they want to perform equally as much as the men are performing. So instead of exempting women from tax, is there an alternative, like making them more, placing them in more areas of position where they can actually work and make ends meet and be able to afford to pay tax like the men can?
Thank you very much. And it's good that you alluded the question in alignment with gender equality and all of that. The Honorable Minister for Women Affairs is somebody I know very well, and she's a very passionate person. I think her heart is in the job, and sometimes maybe her communication may not come through the way it is intended. I hear her saying women are already not measuring up in terms of having the big political war chest, financial war chest, and economically as empowered as some of the men. For obvious reasons of gender inequality that we've seen, that is a historical imbalance that we know, which some of us have been trying to address in the country. So I think that I don't really have a full context where that conversation, where she made that speech and what her intent was. But tax paying is everybody's duty. We all owe it, our nation, to pay taxes. And when I think what she's trying to say is that in terms of measuring up, maybe you want to give women some kind of tax break. So where women are positioned right now, that what women need is empowerment. You need to empower them. Maybe that would have been what to say, that you need to try to say that women need more of empowerment than anything else, more than anything else. Not saying they don't have to pay tax, but saying that empower women first, maybe give them tax breaks so that their businesses can grow, and then the government will begin to enjoy tax from women. Because when you invest in women, you invest in a nation. So I think the call for her is to say, invest more in women, empower women, and then get tax from them, because their businesses would have grown. But asking that women should not pay taxes is even further creating more gaps and widening the inequality, because women and men should pay tax. And that's why we're clamoring for equal opportunity for everyone. So if we have equal pay, equal opportunity, the same kind of economic power, we should be able to do the same thing. Payment of tax is your civic responsibility, and there will be no reason not to expect women to pay tax. And just to say that she may have been taken out of context, and is also to contextualize it to really know what she's saying, where she's saying this, and the intent behind what she's saying. Because these key three things are very important in effective communication. So sometimes it's about what I say and what you hear. So what I hear here is saying, empower women. First, let them build their businesses. Second, and then you get to enjoy their remittance of tax at the end of the day. So investing in women will create better avenue for internal revenue generation. I think that's pretty much what that should be. Anything other than that, man, no day.
All right, but I mean, can you say that, I mean, can we fault people for understanding what she outrightly said? Because, I mean, if we're saying that words were taken out of context, it might mean that maybe she didn't use these exact words and people just interpreted it as such. But she did say that women should be exempted from tax. So will we fault people for reacting to that?
Like I said earlier, I don't know where, I mean, I was called into this conversation yesterday, and honestly, I haven't really had time to engage.
Right.
But I'm just saying, this is me, how I feel that this could be the conversation that we need to have, is to say, empower women. I think that's pretty much what she's trying to say. Okay. But there's no reason to advocate for women not to pay tax. Now, this is my own point. Women should do businesses. Women should be gainfully employed. Women should have adequate and ample opportunities, have job creation for them. And then women should pay tax just like the men. So everybody, tax paying is everybody's business, really. Because we have to build a country. And it is our tax, that will build the country.
Rightly so. Thank you so much, Mary. I would also like to come back to Dabira. Now, Mary did mention that, you know, there are some empowerment programs that should be in place, at least to empower women. And Dabira, before Mary joined in, we've talked about how the minister did say that you need to empower women. If you empower one woman, you're empowering 20 women. So in your opinion, if you were to suggest empowerment programs or ways by which women of Nigeria can be empowered, what are the things that you would advocate for, the things that the government should prioritize in terms of empowering women?
I would advocate for industrialization. I will advocate for government investing into farming, that is agriculture. I will also be advocating for production. Like, we literally don't produce anything in our country. We have a lot of women that are skilled in different aspects, and we have a lot of talented women that can do so much. So if we can have proper alignment or proper analysis of what are the things that we naturally can invest in, that we produce, or that we can get even in our own country, and then develop women and run training on how we can maximize what we have, and then empower women, you know, by so doing, you know, creating more skills acquisition program. Yes, I've had a lot of skills acquisition program where women go to learn hairdressing, hairstyling, and all that. But we need to begin to travel way beyond that. We see how China was able to develop from nothing to become something. Can we go and now duplicate or go and invent into what they have done? How did they do it, and how did they get to where we are now? And like I said earlier, relaxation of tax is different from exempting, you know, tax completely. Tax is very, very important, and tax is one of the things that will help us grow our economy, our society, and help us see the kind of things we want to work in our society. Because when we pay our tax, we'll have good hospitals, we should have good roads. If our government too are able to put the tax paid by the people into proper usage. So everybody will want to pay tax, seeing well that whatever you invest in by your own, by way of your own contribution into the society is being given back to you by the government. Accountability is very, very key and important. If we're paying our tax, if whether relaxation of tax or deduction of tax when it comes to the female gender, it should be put into proper usage, and the government should be accountable and transparent in remitting to the masses what they've used, those tax for.
Right. Okay. Back to you, Mary. One of the topics that we're also talking about in this discussion is the gender pay gap. So how would you say that the government can address this issue of, difference in gender pay to mitigate the need for even exempting women from paying tax or having to empower women to be able to earn as much as the men earn?
If I heard you very well, you said, how do we close the gender gap? Is
exactly, gender pay gap, yes.
Gender pay gap. Well, now the gender pay gap is something that is still relative, For specific, maybe that the men are earning more than, I don't know, Nigeria has a peculiar situation. You need to close the pay gaps. Whatever you pay, and all genders should earn equal pay on specific jobs. So I do not imagine that if I'm the CEO of a bank, and because I'm a woman, the bank will have to review their pay and say this one is a woman, so the pay will be reviewed downward. I mean, the CEO earns a similar pay whether you're a man or a woman. So the gap, there should be no gap. It should never even happen. The pay is pointed to just the position and not the sex or the gender that is occupying that position. And then these are some of the issues that, some of the imbalances that people are clamoring for the government to address, not just the government, even the private sector and the third sector, if you like. So everyone deserves a wage that is commensurate with the work that you do. And then to say that women often bring so much to the table, and women are mostly in the informal sector. And it's unfortunate that this sector oftentimes are not properly waged in terms of enumeration, how you price such wages, because they're doing a whole lot of work. So we can begin to look at how we can pay people appropriately, whether you're working in the home or you're working on a career or you're working in a business. But the fact of your gender should not be the decider of your wage. It's totally unconscionable to do that. And if that is still going on, it is very, very unfortunate. The government needs to look into this and make sure that there are regulations in place to ensure that maybe even the gender policy of the country, these are some of the things it could address. So it becomes very important that the national gender policy of Nigeria becomes a law so that we address these issues from the roots. Because when you have the law in place, you have a backing. One may say implementation becomes a problem, but not in all cases. At least you have something to hold on to. And taking it back to the Honorable Minister's comment, I've read what is scrolling on your screen, and the first line says you need to empower women, and in fact goes on to say you should exempt them from tax. I see that tax exemption from not just a woman like myself. I mean, he's talking about certain category of women. I'm almost certain she talked about her women. Her women are those women. We say when you empower a woman, you have empowered 20 women. I would add that you have empowered a community, not just 20. I say women must be empowered. Without women, there will be no country, which is true. And the empowerment she's talking about, the women she's referring to, are these women in her network, the indigent women. She's not talking about women who are in employment. Those ones, their taxes are deducted at, at source. So the issue of exempting them from tax doesn't happen. So let's be clear on the category of women the minister is talking about. I think that is where the conversation has to really be more specific. So maybe it's in effectively communicating what she really means. I think that's where a kind of gap that needs to also be closed.
All right, on this note, I want to say thank you, Mary Koko, and of course, Dabira Oluwadeyinka. One thing I'll say, though, is it's good to see that in these different constituencies, in the positions of power, women are now adequately represented for someone to even be calling for, empowerment of the women. And this is something that years ago we're clamoring for: more women in politics, more women in governance, so that both interests can be adequately represented. I would have loved for us to continue this conversation, but of course we can't because we're pressed for time. But anyways, thank you so much, Dabira Oluwadeyinka, human rights activist. Thanks for joining us. And also thank you to Mary Koko, policy development and gender expert, and also the founder, Emerge Women Development Initiative, joining us from Abuja. Thank you, ladies, for joining us to discuss this.
Thank you so much.